Well, welcome everyone to the Viva Connections in SharePoint Framework Biweekly Sync. Today is March 7th, and we are going to be having a great call today. On our agenda today is, of course, the latest updates on the SharePoint Framework, our community project updates, picture time with Together Mode, and then we have the stars of the day. We have our demos. We have Adam and Arjun who are going to be presenting on CLI for Microsoft 365 tips and tricks. Guido Zambarda, who's going to be talking about navigating the property pane for SPFx, and Paolo, who's going to be talking about calling Microsoft Graph APIs from bot-powered Viva connections and adaptive card extensions. We have a lot of resources available for you. First, we have our Microsoft 365 and Power Platform community videos, and you can subscribe by going to aka.ms/community/videos. We have our LinkedIn group for discussions. Please join us. There's always lots of good stuff happening there. We have our open source initiatives, and we have our sample galleries where you can get all sorts of cool samples to get started on any of the technologies we'll be discussing today. Finally, if you don't want to remember all these URLs that are listed here, you can go to aka.ms/community/home. We have community calls happening all the time to keep you up to date. And our Microsoft 365 and Power Platform community calls, the same call you're on today, happen regularly. And here's the list. We have our Microsoft 365 and Power Platform weekly call with Microsoft speakers. We have our Power Platform monthly calls. We have our Office add-in monthly calls, and then our Microsoft 365 and Power Platform community biweekly call every other Thursday. And replacing the other Thursdays is Viva Connections and SharePoint Framework. Now you can get all the recurrent invites from aka.ms/community/calls. All the calls are recorded and they're always posted on social media at aka.ms/community/meetup. Our next Microsoft 365 and Power Platform weekly call is going to be on March 12th at 8 a.m. Pacific time, where we're going to talk about the latest news from Microsoft Engineering, our community mode, community together mode, and then Bob German's going to be talking about extending Copilot for Microsoft 365. We're going to have Mark Windle talking about building real-time collaborative apps with Fluid on SharePoint Embedded. And Raja is going to be talking about creating a Microsoft Teams healthcare application. Please join us. Again, you can go to aka.ms/community/ms speaker call invite to attend this call. And if you would like to present, you can request to present. We welcome everyone. This is an inclusive community, and we want everyone to have the opportunity to share all the cool stuff they're doing. So if you want to join us, just go to aka.ms/community/request/demo, and we will find the best spot for you on an upcoming call. Now, if you have never presented and you want to learn how to present, or you've never contributed to the community and you want to learn how to get started, but you're just maybe too afraid to get started, we've got you covered. Sharing is Caring is an inclusive event where you can join us, and we'll do small group events. They're never recorded, they're a safe space, and we'll show you how to do your first contribution. So for example, on the first time contributor session, we'll show you how to do your first GitHub pull request. On a Power Platform samples, we'll show you how to do your first Power Platform sample and commit it to GitHub. You can join us by going to aka.ms/sharing is caring. And very soon, I know we've been saying this for a while, but we are setting up a new tenant, and we're going to be setting up some office hours very soon to make sure that you get the assistance you need. And once you have done your first contribution in the community, we will actually issue you a cool badge to showcase your contributions. You get to show us all the cool stuff that you've done, but you can to show other people that you are contributing to the community. Now, these badges are powered by Credly, the same Credly that used to show you your Microsoft certifications. And that's at no cost to you. We take care of the costs of issuing the badges. All you need to do is, well, first of all, do a recognized contribution on any of our open source repositories. But second, to go to aka.ms/community/recognition and then fill the form that associates your email address with your GitHub handle, and then we'll regularly issue badges to the recognized contributions. Thanks everyone for all your hard work. And here's a gratuitous animation. All right, now let's talk about the SharePoint Framework. And to talk about SharePoint Framework updates, here's our friend Vesa.
Yay! So, quick update on the charts, which are growing. It's amazing to see the amount of stuff. I cannot tell you the exact numbers, but we're looking into tens of millions of daily active users for custom components. And it's daily active users nowadays. It's just unbelievable amount of usage on SPFx. So and that's not going to go away. So super clear, SPFx is here to stay. We're not going to change on that one, even though SharePoint adding model was deprecated. So SharePoint Framework will remain active. Let's go to the following slide. Quick recap on the roadmap. We're looking into releasing 1.19 beta. I think in 2 weeks or so is the first beta coming out. We're still debating on all of the details which are coming in there. But one of the things which I completely forgot about, I was supposed to add this image on the chat, on the slide, but I added now on the chat. One of the new things, for example, is a chart card for the Viva connection. There's also additional set of features and capabilities which are being discussed. Will they be in 1.19 or 1.20? But there's a lot of flexibility across the stack, and also obviously updates to Webpack 5 and all of that stuff is coming in 1.19. But that's early preview on that one. We'll get more details on what exactly is getting released in the first beta, and then that's coming in a set within upcoming weeks. So that should be good. And yes, chart card, like in the chat. Check the image. Cool. Let's go to the projects. PMP.js, I guess is the
Thank you. Yeah. So we have a lot of open source initiatives that are contributed by people in the community, and behind the scenes, all these people do hard work to do cool tools and cool samples that you can use. And the first one is PMP.js with he who shall not be mentioned, Bo Cameron.
Well, you just mentioned me, so I think you broke your own rule.
No.
All right, so we're going to have version 3.24 released next week. Not many updates. We got some data docs for the minimal local debug config. So if you're trying to set up the PNP.js locally, that should be improved. There's potentially one more fix that I'm going to try to get in this week around batching. So hopefully I can get that done for Monday. We're actively working on version 4. And Patrick had fixed an issue with our CI/CD pipeline for our nightly build. So you should be able to see version 4 now. And if you want to check out anything new coming from V3, we also have V3 nightly builds as well. Back to you, Hugo.
Thank you. Bo, did you botch the batch?
I botched the batch.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about CLI for Microsoft 365 with Adam.
Yes, sure. So we just finished February, so we had a new release, 7.5 of the CLI for Microsoft 365, and a bunch of awesome features there, like new improvements in the Microsoft Entra ID, like the possibility to list up with delegated permissions, and so on and so forth. New file copy command, which allows you to copy a file from OneDrive to another, and rename finally from Yammer to Vivengage. And what's really, really awesome and a game changer event is the support for signing with multiple identities to CLI. So this is really awesome if you are working with multiple tenants. Be sure to mute. With multiple tenants, and now you don't need to log in, log out, change your tenant. If you're having a dev tenant, QA tenant, production tenant, whatever, you can now log into all of those with different accounts, and then just do a connection switch, and using the connections, new connections command we added here to manage your different connections. And you can be even logged into the same tenant with multiple accounts, for example, with one as a user and one as an application, and test your script one time as a user and the other time as an application. So really awesome scenarios here, and a really awesome improvement must have if you're managing multiple tenants now with CLI for Microsoft 365. So be sure to give it a try. And add the latest tag in the npm install and docker run command to get the latest release. And follow us on Twitter. Join us on our Discord server, and at the end of the last Monday of every month, we have office hours, not recorded, safe space that you can join us and ask anything you want about CLI, meaning of life, whatever. Join us and then let's chat. Okay, thanks a lot, and back to. Oh no, let's go to the next slide because I'm covering this one as well. Sorry. Okay, so the dev proxy. We also the team had a new release. New beta release at the end of Feb, a very special release because it was the 29 of Feb, so this happens once in a couple of years. Okay, doesn't matter. Among many awesome improvements that you can see on the list, the one that really stands out and you have to know about this is the new Entra mock response plugin that allows you to mock basically the outflow, so mocking your apps that are secured with Microsoft Entra. And this allows you to simulate access tokens in a way that Microsoft Identity libraries understand them and passes you by. So you basically don't need any more an Microsoft Entra app registration to work with your API that is secured by Microsoft Entra. Really awesome scenario. Wow. And already a huge thing that you can try out. So for example, the team, and I will post the link in the chat in a while, created a new learning path in the Microsoft Learn that allows you to create an app that uses Microsoft Graph Toolkit to retrieve your data from your tenant, except the fact that you don't need a tenant anymore because the dev proxy simulates the whole app flow and everything you need to retrieve the data. So really cool scenario, especially now when the dev tenants have a bit of a problem, right? And a lot of improvements here. And also be sure to check out the release notes because there were some breaking changes like rename of the logging level, but you can go over this and those are really easy to fix up. Okay, be sure to have this in your toolset if you're doing any kind of app that uses any kind of API. For sure, don't miss this opportunity. Okay, thanks a lot, happy coding, and back to you, Hugo.
Wow, that's a lot of really cool updates, and I think I'm going to have to watch this recording at half speed to be able to keep track of all the cool updates you've done. Good job, everyone. All right, we have reusable SPFx controls that you can use within your projects to make your applications look and feel like they were out-of-the-box applications. So here's our latest updates, right? Since February 5th, we've released the React Controls 3.17, as well as the property controls. So we have new things. We have new custom formatting and file handling for dynamic forms, custom filter for people pickers. We can align rich text font styles with the out-of-the-box web part and the various other fixes. And on the property controls, we have disabled property support for site picker and code editor text selection fix. We have a lot of cool contributors, Guido, Lars, Luna, and many more that I can't mention here. Thank you, everyone, for your contributions. You can follow us at M365 PnP Controls to stay up to date with the latest updates, and feel free to download these controls and use them in your projects. All right, and Adam, we're back to you.
Yes, indeed. So Viva Connections Toolkit, or should I say SPFx Toolkit, is a VS Code extension that will boost your productivity in developing solutions that are based on SharePoint Framework. So similar like Teams Toolkit, but this is primarily only focusing on SPFx. So apps that allow you to extend, I don't know, SharePoint, Teams, Microsoft.com, Outlook.com, Viva. Oh my God, this technology is everywhere, right? And we just released a new pre-release 2.5.2. We are slowly progressing I want to release it at the end of this month. And V3, which will finally rename it to SPFx Toolkit. And in this pre-release, we introduced an improvement to the scaffolding process. So we heard your feedback that the current scaffolding process using the Yoma generator is a bit harsh and maybe could be improved. So we introduced a UI above it. Now you have a form that presents you all of the steps at once and the validation, why you type and how the form changes depending if you're picking a web port extension, and also adds this additional steps that you can, for example, install PNP.js or SPFx reusable controls directly when scaffolding your projects by selecting the single yes. And this is only the first step in improvement because we are just installing those NPM packages. We don't do any additional setup, but we are waiting for your feedback. And if you love it, if you like this kind of improvement for the scaffolding process, do let me know. And the next thing I want to add is the the fast serve in installation and setup together with the scaffolding, and also some additional, for example, PMP.js setups together with scaffolding and new projects. Okay, and if you want to try it out, and if you're doing any kind of SPFx development, for sure you have to try it out. You can download it from the VS Code Marketplace and visit our repo at aka.ms/viva/VS Code and give it a try. Happy coding, everybody. Back to you, Hugo.
Thank you. It's definitely something you have to try out. And here's something else you should try out is the PMP Modern Search. And to talk about it is our friend Casper.
Hello again. So we have actually a new version in the preview phase right now. We are testing it, and just to make sure that nothing breaks, we've had some updates related to Microsoft Graph Toolkit components, because we've seen that those didn't really behave as expected on Apple devices, on mobile devices. So we're just taking care of that, and we have seen a lot of new contributions from people, and that is just so great to see all those new people showing up. And we also have a request: if we have any Hungarian-speaking people among us, we would really much like to have a Hungarian language pack for PMP Modern Search as well, because we have had some demand. But my Hungarian is a bit rusty, so if we have any additional people who can chip in, that would be very nice of you. So back to you, Hugo.
Thank you. Is that supposed to be goulash there on the screen?
Indeed, it is.
That's awesome. All right. Let's talk about the PMP SPFx samples. We have repositories where you can share your web parts and extension samples. And here's the latest updates. We have modern version history by Dan Toff. He's updated, added the code tour. We got custom message banner for managed SharePoint sites, which is an extension. Paul Matthews has updated it to SPFx 1.18.2. We have our application top placeholder navigation by Marcus Moeller, updated to SPFx again. The personal tools list by Tobias, the polls web part by Harsh, My OneDrive by Amory Thomas, and organization chart by Mirko, as well as an update to My OneDrive by Amory Thomas. We love all these samples. You can go check them out at aka.ms/SPFx web parts. And now let's move to adaptive card extensions with Anoop.
Yes, thank you, Hugo. So we don't have any new samples this time, but yeah, we would love to see some new samples in this repository, aka.ms/SPFx-aces. Please contribute some of the aces and you'll get a nice badge that's shown on the screen. Back to you, Hugo.
Thank you. Now let's get together for a quick picture time to show everyone how cool this community is. And it looks like Vista's already set up the together mode. I'll turn on my camera.
And it's not too pixelated at all. And Don is on the middle. Don, you'll be the lead today. Just assigning you there. Oh, we have a captain in the room as well. Co-pilot on the left. Co-pilot on the left. Yes, that's Kevin. Cool. And a cat. Of course, we will have a cat on the room. We have 50 seats in the room. Paolo in the front row, Guido on the left. Yeah, Brad on the right. Yeah, a lot of familiar faces here. Really, really cool. Oh, is that a beer can? I don't know. A few more seconds, and then we will start recording. And let's do some hand waving. We'll capture a GIF animation out of this and share that in the social media. Thank you for joining. Awesome to have you on the call. Thank you, Leon. The cat isn't just visible, unfortunately. And there's, thank you. Excellent. Really good job on this. We'll capture a GIF animation out of that and share that in the socials. Excellent. Thank you, co-pilot, also joining today. So.
Thank you, everyone. All right, let's get started with our demos. Our first demo is Adam Wójcik and Arjun Menon. I can't say anybody's names today, apparently. But anyway, Adam and Arjun, who are going to be talking about CLI for Microsoft 365 tips and tricks. All right, the floor is yours.
What else? So first of all, do you see my screen? And
yeah,
have a thumbs up. Okay, Great. So hi everybody. Today I will be talking about CLI for Microsoft 365. What else? And this is the second demo out of 5 demo series we plan to deliver that will give you only a glance about how you can use CLI and what CLI is, because there are so many features we cannot show all of them in detail. So if there's anything you will see that you are particularly interested in, please do let me know in the chat, and I will do a deep dive demo only about that. Last time we did an intro about what CLI is and how to get started, and today we will be doing tips and tricks, yeah, if the slide will move. Oh, and come on. And these are some game changer features if this presentation will start working. Sorry, once more, let's try. Oh, come on. Okay, it moved. Okay, I hope it will start responding now. So tips and tricks, so the game changer features that CLI has and could be unique to CLI and not to other CLIs that you maybe might using. So it's good to know them. And before we start, come on. This. Sorry for that. I think a bit of, okay. This will work, so let's go. So before we start, okay, hi everybody. I hope it will be moving smoothly from now on. I'm Adam. I'm a simple standard dev. I'm an MVP. I'm a maintainer of a couple of products, PNP products you may use. Part of PNP core team, doesn't matter. Okay, please do reach me out if you need any kind of help. And today with me, Arjun.
Hello everyone. I'm Arjun Menon. I am based out of Bangalore, India. I'm a Microsoft MVP. I am also a co-maintainer for CLI for Microsoft 365 as well. Adam, can you switch the slide, please, if you don't mind?
Sure.
Yes. I am also a proud alumni of Hugo and David's Sharing is Caring session. So if you guys have not attended that is one of the sessions which you can attend so that you can present like how we are doing it. It will make it so easy. Over to you. Back to you, Adam.
Okay, cool. And let's speed up. So a bit of a use case. So let's say we have our developer named Chuck. He's like chilling all the time, developing something, maybe related to SPFx, whatever. And all of a sudden he gets this do it message on Teams to create some Excel report based on some items from SharePoint list. And best to do it today. So how many times you receive this message? I at least a couple of times in my life. And Chuck is smart. At least that's what Copilot told him. So he will be using CLI for Microsoft 365 to accomplish his task, to create a script so he can reuse it or adapt it to a different use case in the future. And before he starts, he wants to check how he can customize CLI to make it trimmed and ready for his scenario. And as you can see, CLI has a lot of settings to set up. So some are strictly related to how the CLI will react when you are logging, or how CLI will respond to your commands. So what will be the default output mode, or what would the help mode? So if you will see the full doc command help, or just a trimmed version of only the options when you will ask for the help, or the command will fail, or will you see the spinner, or if it will prompt for the questions, and many more. And you can set them all up by using the CLI config set list get reset command. And it's a lot and could be a bit overwhelming also for Chuck. And CLI has an answer for that. So we have an M365 setup command that will ask you 2 questions. Are you planning to use CLI interactively or in script? Or are you a beginner or pro? And based on your answers, we will set the settings for the CLI perfect for your scenario. And what's really, and I won't be demoing it today because I demoed in the last session, but what's really awesome that you don't always need to answer those questions. You can run the M365 setup. There's a scripting parameter, and it will set up the settings already trimmed or fit for the scenario based for script. So this could be a command that is at the top of every command, and this is what will Chuck use to be sure that when the script is executed, it's prepared to be run in like a scripting mode, so won't be presenting a loader or additional help that is not needed for the script or for the logging or whatever. Okay, so really awesome. And the next thing, what Chuck actually needs, so he doesn't need to retrieve all the data from the list, just some trimmed data. And not every command uses an API underneath that supports filtering, but we have a query option that allows you to add filtering and ordering for any kind of command CLI has. And It supports JSON path. So this is a query language for JSON, because under the hood, we are working on objects, so on JSON objects, and then you can pass your custom filtering or sorting to trim the values from any command, any response, to only have the one you actually want. So this is really awesome, and this is something Chuck will for sure use. Okay, the next thing, so CLI supports different output modes. So we have like the JSON output mode, which is perfectly to use in a script when you are passing one response from one command to another. We have the text and the markdown output modes, which are perfect for readability in console or in a file, so really readable for the user. And we have the CSV output mode, which is really awesome for an Excel report, right? And there are additional options that you can set using the CLI config commands. For example, if you want the headers to be present as part of this CSV report, so the response, so part of your report as well, or what will be the symbol that will escape the column. So really awesome, and this is something that Chuck will for sure use, because then his whole script will be just a single command line with a query and with a CSV output to a file, and done. Really cool. And another feature we want to present to you today, which is a huge game changer in CLI, and Chuck will be using it as well, is the context. And it's not only site context, because CLI is not only about managing SharePoint sites. It's about managing your Microsoft 365 tenants. So the context could be anything, anytime, anywhere. And we have commands like init remove that supports it. And basically what the context is a file that's named m365rc.json, to which you can put any kind of option. And then when you're executing a command which is run in the same place where this context file is present, CLI will know that it can use the options from this file, and therefore you don't need to pass them to every command, like the web URL, which is almost present in any SPO command. And really cool. Let's see a use case. So let's say I am in my Visual Studio Code, and this is my script, 3 commands, cool. And as you can see, I am passing the web URL and the list title in a couple of commands. The same thing. So I could extract it to a variable at the top of my script and then change only this variable. But what I can also do is just use the CLI context, and I don't have to do it manually. I can execute a command in the terminal, m365 context init, which will create this file for me, and then I can do run additional commands to put those options I am using in my scripts in this context file, so I am sure this context file is done properly. And then what I can do is I can remove those options from my script. And when I will run the script in the same location as my context, CLI will know, okay, now I can use those options from this file. Awesome. And that's why the script is neat and clean and doesn't have the additional fields that could distract you. And what's really good as a use case here, that you can have different context file based for different environments. For example, for a dev environment, prod environment, whatever, and then just rename them before running a script, so the CLI will run in the proper context of your environment. Really awesome use case, right? And Chuck will be using it for sure. And now I'll pass my voice to Arjun to show you more cool features about what can be used with CLI for Microsoft 365. Okay, Arjun, stage is yours.
Is my screen visible, Adam?
Yes, we can see it.
Thank you. Awesome. Now we've heard about Chuck. How good is he? What are the things which he does in these day-to-day activities? Now the problem with Chuck is he's too ambitious. He wants to bring the interactive generative AI experience into the terminal which he is going to run the commands. Well, CLI is there for his rescue. So what Chuck will do is that there's something called the Chili, which we call as our AI assistant, which is embedded or which is infused along with the CLI toolchain. So what Chuck can do is that he will invoke this AI assistant, ask whatever questions which he has, and it doesn't just stop there. He can even continue the conversation, ask the questions on top of that as well. Let me quickly show a quick demo and show you how it typically behaves. Now, I hope you can see my terminal. What Chuck does is that he will just ask m365 question mark, and I'll just ask, please give me the command to create SharePoint list. Well, I've added please, so I'm sure I'll get a response for sure. So what is happening under the covers is that under the CLI, we are using something called Mendable AI, a service which has been provided by Mendable, and they were kind enough to use their services where we have infused the documentations of the CLI to their system so that we can use the generative AI to the terminal itself. So the advantage is that you'll be able to get the conversational experience within the terminal itself. Now, what you see is that you get the response in a pretty neat way. With all the details, what are the comments which is going to get it. Say, for example, it has given the commands that, okay, SPO list add is something which I have to use it. Now, the problem with Chuck is that he's too ambitious. His ambition does not stop there. He wants to know more. Now, how about with version limit? Let's see. So this is the power which it brings to the terminal interface so that you can have a conversational kind of interface within the terminal itself so that you'll be able to get the details about the command. You don't need to go to the docs. But again, if you prefer to go to the docs, you can always go there. But if you prefer to have it from the terminal interface itself, you can get the details here. Now, you get the details that, OK, when you ask this question, you have to add one more parameter called major version limit. So this is just an example which I showed here. The power which it brings into the terminal is much more than that. And the Chuck is super happy that he'll be able to use these in the terminal itself. All right. Now, quickly shift the content. All right. Now Chuck is happy. Now he's going to remember chili. Now, Adam, in his initial discussion, briefly talked about something called multiple identities. Well, we consultants are really famous for handling the gazillions of tenants which we manage, right? So the problem with the classical approach is that if you want to log into the multiple tenants, the login to the previous tenant gets lost. Now, that is a real pain. So how about if you are able to bring all these connections into the terminal interface, and all the user needs to do is that invoke the command for switching the connection, so that within the script, if you have a complicated script which handles with multiple tenants or with multiple users, or even if you have a simple script where you quickly want to search to switch the tenants to run it against the multiple tenant itself, this is the way to do that. Well, we've got something called connection list, remove, set, and use. I mean, it's a typical CRUD operations which we will have it. It will list the list of connections which is already there. You'll be able to remove it. And the core idea is that you'll be able to use the command called M365 connection use so that you'll be able to use the connection for invoking the command against this one. Let me quickly show it in action here. Connection list. Now you see that there are already 3 connections available over here. Now you can also notice that it is being from a different tenant. This is from a-um.me, and this is from another tenant. And this is another connections which I'm using the app only permissions. So you can even log into using the device code, the conventional device code, using the app only login, or any kind of logins which you prefer to. And all this connection gets persisted in this interface. So what I'm going to do is that let me quickly log in to this one using a connection name called Mike. Right. Doers. I'll just quickly click this. And the login gets invoked under the covers. And when we speak, the login is getting executed under the covers, and I'm getting logged in to the tenant. All right. Let's hope it works. Yes, it does. Let me just go back here. I should get the response at any point. Well, I'm not. Yes, I got. Let's quickly get the list. Now let's run a very, very complicated command which we have. Getting the list of SharePoints in the my tenant, right? Super complicated, isn't it? Now what happens is the Chuck identifies something. The user which he has logged in does not have the permission. So what Chuck quickly does is that quickly switch the connection to another user. Site list. Bingo, you got the result. Now imagine Chuck wants to log into another tenant. Connection use AUM 365. I'm running the same command. Site list. Now you can notice that This is from AUM 365. And this is from AUM Online. Now, this is the power which it brings to the table. Now, what I showed is a very, very simple or very, very trivial case. But imagine a script where you want to do a complicated operations within the tenant, across the tenant, or with multiple users. The power it brings into the table is super, super awesome. All right. Let me quickly switch the slides here. Now, what you can see is that it gives the multiple identities. You'll be able to use the various commands for switching the context, and it will even give the details about what is the type of authentications which the user has used in. So there will be scenarios where you want to use it with the user, or there will be scenarios where you want to check the tenant with an Azure AD app. So this is the way how you can quickly switch against this. All right. Now the problem is when Chuck starts using the CLI from Microsoft 365, the manager is not going to sit idle. He's going to bring lot of complicated tasks which has to be completed by the Chuck. Now, one of the use case which manager brought into Chuck is that to get the list of flows which is there in the tenant, or Power Automate which is there in the tenant. Now, what happens typically? What users or what consultants will do is that they'll start the script from the scratch. Well, with PNP samples, you don't necessarily need to do that. Most of the commonly used samples, it would already be available within the repository. We've already given the details in the URL of the details over here. You can quickly head on to that, where you'll be able to see very, very amazing samples over there. All you need to do is that go through the samples, and you don't need to reinvent the wheel. Well, Chuck is a person who loves VS Code to its core. Now, what another beautiful feature which has which we bring is that there's something called an extension for CLI for Microsoft 365. Now, the advantage of this extension is that you'll be able to see all the commands within the interface of the Visual Studio Code. You can do the search, and you'll be able to see the details in the grouped way as well as in the listed way. So you don't need to go to the browser. If you're a lazy person like Chuck, this is a handy thing for you. And if you want to know more information or want to see the browser experience, you can always click over here, which will take you directly to the browser itself. Now, another cool feature which it brings here is that you will be able to search the samples right from here. So what I'm going to do is that Chuck wants to create an inventory of the flow. Well, Pete has already created that sample. Now, the sample is available in both of these languages, both in the PowerShell as well as in the Bash. Chuck is a Bash user, so he clicks on the Bash, and it gets directly opened up in a new window. Now, 85% of the task is already completed. All Chuck may need to do is that tweak it a bit if he wants to show it more interactive. Now, this is how you will be able to get the samples directly used. You don't need to create it from the scratch. You can go to the sample gallery. Almost all the samples would already be available over here. Now, this is an extension which has been created by our own Adam, who just started the presentation. It is out of this sheer love for the CLI. He has created this. Kudos to him. Well, now that concludes the session which we are having, and we are just not stopping here. We've got a 5-series session which we are going to tell you various use cases, various tips and tricks, how you can easily manage it, the tenants and all. Do watch out for that. Along with that, we also have a Discord server. Please do join us. And we also have every Monday Connect which happens. Do join us and ask any kind of questions, be it with the CLI or be it with the live, where we are more happy to answer about that. This is the URL which you can refer to. With that, over to you, Hugo.
Thank you so much. All right, we are a little behind, so let's pass the mic to Guido Zambarda, who is going to be talking about navigating the property pane for SPFx in SPFx, and it's Guido's first presentation. So everyone, please welcome Guido.
Thanks, Hugo, and welcome everyone. Yes, this is my first demo, so be kind. I'm Guido Zambarda. I'm a Microsoft certified senior software developer at pscs.com. And here are my social handles. If you want to get in touch, feel free. And also, the last one is my blog. So if you want to check out, I write about the SharePoint framework and more Microsoft-related stuff. So starting with setting the context, I bet every one of you know already what's a SharePoint framework solution. But just for the ones who doesn't, I can scaffold a project for SharePoint Framework using Human Generator or a VS Code extension like the Teams Toolkit or the Viva Connection extension. And inside these tools just scaffold the project for you. And with my demo, I wanted to point out the webpart.ts file, which is the main entry point for the web parts. And inside of that file, we'll see the get property pane configuration method, which allows you to define what's inside the property pane. So let's switch to the demo. And here is my demo environment. I'm zooming in, okay, so everyone can see. And this is my beautifully web part. And we're going to open the property pane. And here, as you can see, there are a couple of controls. And the most interesting thing is the navigation here. So I have defined 3 pages where I have the first, the second, and the third. And as you can see, each page contains a different control or different controls. And I can freely navigate through them. And this is what I'm talking about. So switching to the code, here is my sample solution. And this is the webpart.ts file that I was talking about. So proceeding with the get property pane configuration method, as you can see, it contains it returns an object which contains property pages, and for each page that I have in the property pane, I'll have an object here representing the controls and the groups that I want to show there. So in my example, I have in the first page, as you saw before, I have 2 groups. One contains the description and the other one contains the toggle. And I have also another group which is available only if the toggle is on or off. Here, as you can see, I have multiple objects representing the pages. And just by defining these objects, SharePoint Framework will take care of defining the navigation and handling it. So I want to just pointing out some little bit of details. In the get property pane configuration returns an iProperty pane configuration object, which contains different properties. And for using the navigation, you have, as said before, the pages property, which is which contains these properties. So you can define an header and a groups. I'm using only the iProperty pane group type, but another thing that I think it's interesting is the iProperty pane conditional group, which can allow you to show one group or another. So you can define a primary group or a secondary group. And you can bind the show secondary group property to switch showing the first group or the second group. So this is just for the sake of it. And this is all. I mean, the navigation is pretty easy and quick, so everyone, I think, should know it. And just to have some reference, here is a quick view of what I just showed you. So the get property configuration, the get property pane configuration method and its type, and the fact that you can handle the various pages inside the pages property. And also another thing that I think it's pretty interesting is the display groups as a coercion, which changes the UI, and I think it make it really nice. And with this, I'll leave some reference for you. So the PMP modern search is, in my opinion, has a very great use of the property pane, as you can see from the screenshot on the right. So you can check it out just to know what kind of controls you can put and how you can use the property pane at better. And here you can find my sample solution in the sample solution gallery. Feel free to check it out. And with this, thank you all. And please, Hugo, continue.
Fantastic job. Thank you. Great. And you're talking about one of my favorite topics, property panes. So that's a bonus for me. All right, let's move on to Paolo to talk about calling Microsoft Graph APIs from bot-powered Viva Connections adaptive card extensions. Paolo?
Yeah, thank you, Hugo. Thank you, everyone. And yes, we are going to talk about how we can consume Microsoft Graph API from bot-powered ACEs for Microsoft Viva Connections. We have already covered a couple of months ago how to create a bot-powered ACE or adaptive card extension for Viva in a previous community call. Now, today, we want to dig into something close to the real life experience and to real life solutions. So just as a reminder, the bot-powered ACEs are a fresh new technology introduced and released by Microsoft really recently, and which can be used to create on the server side using the bot framework, whether with C# or Node.js, an adaptive card extension to extend the Microsoft Viva Connection dashboard. Now, with this new development model, for example, you can use a C# bot framework-based solution to render on the server side the output that will be then shown in the UI of the Viva Connection dashboard. And this is really useful whenever you want to have really private algorithms or you want to consume APIs with secret keys or stuff like that, and you want to keep your code safe and secured on the server side rather than having client-side code, as well as whenever you want to reuse already existing code, because, for example, you might have already implemented a bot for Teams, just to make an example, and you want to reuse the same logic also to provide the UI components of a Viva Connection. But what is really important and interesting to know is that you can also use and consume the Microsoft Graph or any third-party APIs in a secure way, relying on open authorization and Azure Entra ID. So that's what I'm going to cover in this demo. And first of all, I will show you the actual implementation, so how it looks from an end user perspective and from an implementation point of view. And then we will briefly come back to the slide deck to have some additional insights about this topic. So first of all, let me switch to my browser in my demo environment. And this is the demo that I just released, as you can see, just yesterday in the sample solution gallery. You can find it in the home page just for a while because we have so many new demos every single day that most likely tomorrow will be already in the second page, which is great because all the community is contributing heavily to the sample gallery. But this is the demo, and then you will find the link in my slide deck. The demo has been built based on this technical article that you can find on learnmicrosoft.com, where you can find a step-by-step guidance about how to secure the communication between a bot-powered ACE and Microsoft Graph or any other backend API. And now let's have a look at the user experience. Here I am in the Viva Connection dashboard. Let me refresh the page just for the sake of having fresh content. We go to the Viva Connection here, and you can see here I have a couple of adaptive cards. Those two adaptive cards are server-side rendered based on a backend bot. So you see I have a sign-in button. I can click on the sign-in button. I will be brought to a pop-up dialog provided by the bot framework, which will give me a code which is usually called the magic code for authentication. I can copy the value of the magic code. I can come back to the adaptive card and provide the actual value of the magic code through this UI. And once I've done that, I will be authenticated and able to use the
the advanced functionalities of my adaptive card. Here, for example, I can see the emails that I have in my inbox, as you can see right here with this popping up UI, which is called Quick View in the adaptive card extensions world. Now, what is important to notice is that now this flow with the magic code and stuff like that is something that you will have whenever you don't have support for cookies or whenever you are using as an authentication provider that is not based on Enter ID. While pretty soon it will be possible to have an automatic handling of this magic code. So basically the end user will simply click on the sign in button and automatically they will be signed in into the adaptive card extension. So now let's see what's happening under the cover. As I said, we have already seen a couple of months ago that in order to create a bot-powered adaptive card extension, we need to have an Azure bot configured. So let me switch to my Azure environment, if I can find it, and here it is. And this is an Azure bot that I created for this specific demo. Once you create the Azure bot, in the configuration of the Azure bot, under the Microsoft App ID section, you have this Manage Password link, which allows you to open the actual settings of the application registered in Enter ID to support your bot. In this application, aside from taking care and note of the application ID, tenant ID, eventually of a client secret if you need it for security reasons, you also need to configure in the API permissions the permissions that your bot will need to consume the actual API you want to leverage. So here I'm reading the email messages in the inbox of the user, and as such, I granted the mail.read permission, delegated permission for my user. Why did I stress the delegated word? Because now, here, in this context, we are working under the security context of the currently connected user. So the bot will be able to consume Microsoft Graph on behalf of the user who is consuming, who is browsing the Viva Connection dashboard. So first bullet, or first task to accomplish. Give proper permissions for Microsoft Graph or for any third-party API that you want to consume in the application backing the bot. Then, just as a reminder, when you create a bot for Teams or for Viva Connection, both Power ACEs, you also have to configure an application unique URI, as well as a custom permission scope, which is precisely this one, access underscore as underscore user. And you have to allow the Teams client, both the desktop, web, and the mobile one, to access your application with this specific permission scope. So once you have done that from an application configuration perspective, you can go back to your bot. And still in the configuration section, you have this area where you can configure one or more open authorization connection settings. By doing that, whenever you click on the Add Off Connection Settings, you have to provide a name and you have to choose one of the many identity providers which are supported by the bot framework. As you can see, there are a lot of them. And if you want to use Enter ID, well, indeed, Azure Active Directory v2 will be your target, which is exactly what I have configured right here when I created my Secure Bot ACE Enter ID connection settings. By configuring this item, I simply provided here, selected the service provider. I provided the client ID of my application and the client secret that you saw it was configured before. I specified, and you have to do that, the token exchange URL. My application in Entra is a multi-tenant one, so here I use common, followed by / and the URL of the token exchange URL. As the tenant ID, I again specify common because this one is a multi-tenant bot, or it might be that you want to have a single tenant one and you will specify just the ID of the target tenant, and then the permissions that you want to get when you will use these connection settings in order to retrieve an access token on behalf of the user. And here I want to read who the user is and what the email messages are in the inbox of the user. So user.read space mail.read, and you can provide as many scopes as you need. Okay, so once you've done that, it's now time to have a quick look at the code base. So let me switch to Visual Studio. And this is my bot-powered ACE running in my Visual Studio. Again, for the basics about building both power aces, please have a look to the other demo that I made a couple of months ago. But here in the constructor of this both power ace, I'm creating, for example, the card view that you saw to sign in. So basically this one or this one on the right side for the other instance. And this is a card view of type sign in card view parameters. So with this factory method, you create a card view to sign in the user, and you have to specify a card button component, which will be the one implementing and providing the complete sign-in logic, which is mandatory, but it will be used just for other identity provider other than Entra ID. Then you have to specify for future usage the card view type of type sign-in, and then you can have as many card views and quick views as you like in the implementation of your actual both power days. In my scenario, I decided that when the user will click on the complete sign-in button, I will show a quick view, which is defined right here. And this quick view, which is completely customizable, you can build it as you want, will have just the text box to collect the magic code and a button to trigger the actual login based on the magic code. Now, what happens when the user will click on the sign-in button and then get back the magic code and click on the complete sign-in logic? Well, first of all, if the user will click on the card and we'll go through the automatic flow, we will simply look for a magic code property which will be automatically injected in the request that will go to the both power ace. We retrieve the value of the magic code, and using a backend service provided by the both framework, here in the get user token, we get in the current context the user token client service. We retrieve the user token of the user, specifying the connection name, which is the name we have right here, the name of our connection. By doing that, under the cover, there will be a lot of plumbing, making it possible for me to get back an access token that I can use to do the actual consumption of the Microsoft Graph. If I don't have a user, it means that I need to authenticate, and as such, I will show the sign-in card view. Okay. If the user will provide the magic code manually, I will have to handle that magic code in the task handle action of my both power days. So again, I will get in the action parameter, so as an input for my action, the magic code provided by the user. And one more time, using the get authenticated user, I will do the same as before. So I will get a token for the user, providing the magic code, the context, and eventually the cancellation token. Once I have the token, no matter what, if I've got it using the automatic flow or the manual flow for any other identity provider, I then can use the access token to consume Microsoft Graph. And so, for example, to get the list of email of the user, I created a method which will get the user token, and using the Microsoft Graph SDK will simply build an instance of the SDK, and using the Graph SDK, will construct the request to get the list of messages, the top N messages in the inbox of the user. So the consumption of Graph by itself is really trivial. But what is really important is that you need to rely on the get user token through the user token client, which will also provide you the capability to sign out the user. Still with the same service, you can also force a sign out of the user. Now, briefly and quickly back to the slide deck, just to give you a couple of hints, and then I'm done. This is the recap of the steps, just for your convenience. And of course, you will have, as we already saw in the previous demo, you will need to define a manifest for your application. But things to keep into account: the security context is shared across the same instances of the same card. So if you will have multiple instances of the same card, once you log in one of them, you will be logged in all of them. On the contrary, if you have different cards of different flavor, you have to sign in every single card. So you will have to do the sign-in flow for every single different kind of card. The same applies for the sign out. So if you sign out from one instance of a card, all of the other cards of the same type will be signed out automatically. You need to keep this into account because it will slightly change the user experience, maybe compared to what you are used to do in a regular solution. That said, Here you have the link to the sample that I showed you, and you also have a link to the initial article about how to build a boat-powered ACE, and a second article, which is the one I've just covered in this demo, where you can see how to build step-by-step a secured boat-powered ACE with authentication and authorization in place. Thank you, everyone, and back to you, Hugo.
Thank you. All right, everyone. I'd like to thank all our speakers for today for the awesome demos. Let's move on to our feedback slide. So if you like these calls or if you don't like these calls, please let us know. You can just rate the calls and let us know by going to aka.ms/community/calls/feedback. If you like today's call, my name is Hugo Bernier. If you didn't like it, my name is Bo Cameron. And you can also join our official Discord server to connect with the team. You can go to aka.ms/community/discord. We have over 1,700 members, so it's very awesome. Thank you, everyone. The recording will be available in 24 hours on the Microsoft 365 and Power Platform Community YouTube channel by going to aka.ms/community/videos. You can follow us on Twitter at Microsoft 365 Dev and at M365PMP. Our next Viva Connections and SPFx call is going to be March 21st at 7 a.m. Pacific time. Our next Microsoft 365 and Power Platform call, March 14th. And all the calls are available by going to aka.ms/community/calls. All right, with that, thank you, everyone. Have a great day.